and sponsors talking about some various topics, which is the need of the hour in the blockchain ecosystem. So, to begin with, I would like to invite our Council Chair, Dr. Basu, to give away the opening remarks, followed by Mr. Richard Kastelein delivering the opening keynote. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I said good morning.
Good morning.
That's great. That's great. Okay, we used to have in one of my previous company's chairman, he used to say, we clap for everybody, but we don't clap for me, myself, or we ourselves. We had huge lot of knowledge gathering yesterday, and you have achieved something yesterday by gathering lots of knowledge. So may I request you to clap for yourself? Thank you. So I left my presentation yesterday with this ant philosophy, and I said ants are those creatures of Mother Earth who can carry more weight than what is their own weight. And ants philosophy, I would request all of you techies sitting here to study. If you study ant philosophy, I'm sure you'll be very, very successful in FinTech. So my morning comment, I would like to give 3 words to you for remembering, particularly the young people who are sitting here. I said, don't challenge your limits, limit your challenges. If you have to limit your challenges, you have to essentially have 3 key words with you. The first word is K-A-S-H. I say K-A-S-H, cash brings cash. This is what we tell to all young budding managers. And would you like to know the word K-A-S-H? What is the expansion of this word? The expansion of this word is knowledge, attitude, skill, and habit. If you have to have the habit of acquiring knowledge, you have to have the habit of acquiring attitude, you have to have the habit of skill, acquiring skill, and this skill is for application of whatever knowledge you gather. If you have the habit of acquiring knowledge, attitude, and skill, and if you have the attitude to acquire knowledge and skill, then cash will be with you. You need not run after cash. My father used to say, never run after cash. Cash will run after you if you have knowledge, attitude, skill, and habit. The next point I would like to say that you should be having strategility. What is strategility? It's a new word I am patenting in India. A lot of people are talking about it. You know, disruption takes place. Why? Why are you pushed from red ocean to blue ocean or blue ocean to red ocean? Particularly when you are doing very well, somebody has come and disrupted you. That's the only thing you don't have which can disrupt you. And what is that? That is strategility. What is strategility? Strategility is ability to design agile strategy. Ability to design as agile strategy. Unless you are agile, unless you are aware of what is happening around, unless you are aware of the new developments in the world, you may not be having a proper strategy to sustain in this VUCA world. And let me tell you one thing, a lot of us may not be aware or may not be thinking seriously about what is next to blockchain. Because there is next to everything. The next in class is always there. And the next to blockchain, you must start thinking of today if you have to be successful and if you have to be sustaining in blockchain. And the last word from my side, be innovative. This word innovative has got 3 words. It comes from the word innovation. Today's world, nobody will survive without disruption if there is no innovation. When I say that BlackBerry was killed by Android and Apple, was it a disruption or was it an innovation? No. It was an innovation. What is innovation? It is innovative innovation. And it has to have an invention element into it. That means you should be offering something new which the world has not seen before. It should not be a one-step plus or two-step plus than what the world has seen. It should be absolutely new, which the world has not seen at all. So you have to have innovation in your mind, innovative invention for value creation. That is the expansion of this word. Innovative invention for value creation. And if you have innovative invention, you have to be innovative. That means don't think of innovation anymore. Think of innovative invention. So be innovative. So with these three words, I request you to be absolutely agile as you used to be yesterday, and wait for some very, very exciting knowledge gathering sessions for yourself. We have a whole host of leading speakers from the world, leading experts from the world on this, and I'm sure that Triscon Global, the kind of people they have put together for the dais to be occupied in the next few hours from today will be very, very exciting. So with these few initial comments of the day, let me welcome you for the second day's session of this Dubai Blockchain World Blockchain Summit. And I would be bothering you in my comments whenever you do some presentation, because that's my habit to know more from the speaker. So please don't mind if I raise some stupid questions as you finish your presentation. My last word to you, whenever any speaker speaks or whenever any moderator does the panel discussion, my request to all of you, please ensure that the last 1 or 2 minutes you spend for summarizing what you have spoken. That is what the people will carry as a message. Like in our panel we say, what is your words of wisdom and what is your prophecy? Thank you so much. Wait for a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Basu. Well, this is fascinatingly exciting for me to make this announcement because, you know, when you get to work with one of the finest speakers in the world, you understand how good they are. So, allow me to welcome a speaker who has been traveling the world in order to educate and share his knowledge. Mr. Kastelein, Blockchain News, Crypto Design Group, and Blockchain Partners. Please give it up to Kastelein.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming out this morning. We had a great boat trip last night. For those of you that weren't there, sorry you didn't make it. It was a brilliant evening. Yeah, my name is Richard Kastelein. I'm a Canadian from Vancouver, British Columbia. Actually, I live in the Netherlands for the past 15 years. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of background. I'm involved in basically 4 different projects at the moment in the blockchain space. I'm the publisher of Blockchain News, which is one of the smaller publications in the space, but I cover ICOs quite extensively, so if anybody wants to learn about ICOs and about blockchain, it's a great resource, it's free, and there's a lot of material there. I also have a company called Crypto Assets Design Group. We do ICOs for a service-oriented company, and we've helped raise about $250 million for about a dozen ICOs. Blockchain Partners, we're in education. We're working with Oracle to help educate their 150,000 staff members on blockchain technology. We run a basic and intermediate program that we do via WebEx. And I do an event called Crypto Financing earlier this year, which is the first ICO event in Europe. So my area is ICOs, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. And I hope that you'll find it interesting. Now, let me go back to storytelling, because that's where my roots are. I'm originally a journalist by trade. I spent my first years in the Canadian Arctic as a cub reporter, and I moved down to the Caribbean for about 10 years after that in the media. Now, I'm going to tell you a little story about an island called Yip in the South Pacific. How many people have heard of Yip? Okay, near Micronesia. It's not far from Guam, actually. And what's interesting about this story is that it kind of helps us understand what blockchain is, in a way. Now, the Yip Islanders, they had something called rhinestones, and there's a couple pictures of them here. Maybe you've you've seen them in like National Geographic or some magazines in the past. And what's interesting about these stones and how they kind of help tell the story about blockchain is that these islanders used to have to sail about 400 miles away to get these coins, because they didn't have these stones on their own island, so there was some scarcity involved in the stones themselves, and this was their currency, okay, for these island people. Now, they had to sail a long ways to get the stones, but they also had to work, they had to carve them, they had to mine them, in effect, from the rock quarries in Guam. And then they had to, they made them quite big, some of the stones. And then they would sail them back to the island, and this would be their currency. Now, what's really interesting about these stones is they were so big that they didn't really move them between my house to someone else's house. If I bought 5 pigs from Juan down the street, I didn't really move the stone. We just, basically everybody on the island agreed by consensus that that stone now belonged to Juan, and he gave me 20 pigs. So it was, the ownership of the coins was determined by consensus, by all the people on the island made a decision of the transfer of ownership of that stone to another person. Now that's all very interesting because, you can see the stone, who has it. But what's even more interesting is the fact that these islanders would also, sometimes they would lose a stone on the way back sailing. They lost a few of them over the years. And the stone, 300 miles or 400 miles offshore, or 200 miles offshore, the stone went down a mile into the water. Okay, they mined it, they worked for this stone. It was an effort, And the interesting thing is when they got back to the island, they still agreed, the people, that this stone had value, even though they couldn't see it. The stone was 200 miles offshore, 1 mile down. But everybody on the island agreed that even though they couldn't see the stone had value. And this stone was traded within their economic system. So someone would give the stone that's 300 miles that way and 1 mile down in exchange for 20 pigs, and everybody on the island would agree by consensus that that stone that existed that nobody could see, that was 300 miles that way and 1 mile down, would now transfer ownership to someone else. So what we're talking really about is a rudimentary consensus mechanism system of an object that can't be seen, but everybody agrees upon that it has value. And that's something a little bit like blockchain. So think about that next time you tell a story of blockchain to maybe someone that doesn't know. It's kind of a nice little tool for sharing knowledge about how blockchain works or can work historically. So when people ask me why do people get into cryptocurrency, and I don't know if you know this, but every year on May 22nd we celebrate Bitcoin Pizza Day. Now the reason we celebrate that is because the first thing I ever bought with Bitcoin were 2 pizzas from Papa John's. Those 2 pizzas cost 10,000 Bitcoin. 10,000 Bitcoin today is worth about $55 million US, so that's a pretty expensive slice of pizza. That's worth almost $250,000 dirham. So why do people get into it? This is one of the reasons why there's a lot of excitement and a lot of fervor and a lot of people moving towards ICOs, moving towards investing in cryptocurrency, and why it is a buzz at the moment. This is part of what fuels it, is this speculation that it will have value. And one of the things that's most interesting is people ask me, when's the bubble going to pop, Richard? When is this over? It can't last forever. The interesting thing I always say back to them, I say, well, you know what? There's only 21 million Bitcoin ever created. There is built-in scarcity. Inflation is impossible. There's always going to be demand when there is only so many. Of course, that's the positive side of the bubble explanation. There's also some negative sides as well, but that's certainly one of the things that I point out historically, also with Bitcoin when it comes to its future itself and the future of cryptocurrencies. We have built-in scarcity into most of our cryptocurrencies. That creates a kind of unique dynamic. We're not printing money forever. We're not the Fed. We have a limited amount, and because of we've basically taken the ability to transact at almost zero cost, we're able to go into decimal points. Historically, it costs any money transfer under $25 is a loss because it costs that many people. The trust agents that exist within our current financial ecosystem are expensive. So this whole new world we've created, we've reduced that to near zero cost, and we can trade money now. We can have we can not only have microcurrencies, we can go into nanocurrencies. We can have machines trade with other machines at 0.00000 of a fraction of a currency, which is really unique in our emerging the emerging world of blockchain. Now, I'm going to go a little bit into the story of ICOs. You guys all know what an ICO is, correct? Is there anybody here that doesn't know what an ICO is? Okay, so you know, it's not really that new, actually. The first ICO was done in 2012 by Mastercoin, and they called it initial coin offering. Now, it's interesting because the lawyers that are involved, especially American lawyers, are like, you can't use that ICO. It sounds too much like IPO. It's a security. You can't. You know, you guys need to rename this thing. So you might hear the word ITO, or you might hear the word token sale, or token generation event, a TGE, or a token acquisition, donation, non-security, no equity, open source, non-Americans, no Canadians. Please leave us alone. SEC happening. IP ban, IP ban. And I say that because most ICOs these days they're banning Americans from investing completely, and Canadians, because of the SEC, and because of the potential that there could be a class action lawsuit. Hello, Tezos, anyone? Coming back at people or the founders of any projects. So, you know, we're kind of adjusting our language. It's this politically correct or new, you know, the word ICO is becoming less and less used because the lawyers are telling us that we should really get away from that language when discussing this. So, ICOs have been around since 2012, so it's not really that new. I mean, we're talking about 2013 Mastercoin, so we're talking about, you know, 4 years, but it really only exploded this year. You know, and at Blockchain News I really saw it because I started suddenly getting advertisers from the ICO world all at once, you know, I'd say about January, February this year. And it was insane what has happened and how quickly this has risen and powerful this new method of raising money has become. And I'll explain a little bit more about that. So the legal structures now, interestingly enough, my roots are in open source software, so I've been in open source since about 2000. You know, we used to laugh in our world. You know, the only currency we had in open source was ego. We never made any money. We just did stuff because it was cool and other people used it. You know, we built things based on we were friends trying to make a difference and create something new and really unique. So we never made any money in the open source world, but we had a strong community and we had a good, what I would call network value. The value wasn't really in any kind of crypto or monetary means, but we had a strong, you know, we had a very, very tight community, and, you know, whether you were Joomla, WordPress, Linux, or any of Python, or any of the great open source projects out there, you had a real feeling of community. Now this is kind of spun out into the world of Bitcoin and blockchain, because actually Satoshi open source is software. Bitcoin is open source. And the first foundation was the Bitcoin Foundation. We also saw when Ethereum did their ICO, they did it as they open sourced their stack, and they created a foundation, a non-profit foundation to run it. So this has become kind of the benchmark in many ways in the first ICOs that are run. The ethos is very much around the open source kind of community and the way things are done. I mean, the founders, they get rewarded by holding a certain percentage of the tokens, say between 8 and 10% of the total issuance. So they actually do well. I mean, there's no doubt that Vitalik Buterin has a fair chunk of ether, and, you know, he's fine for the rest of his life. There's no race. So there is a monetary return for the founders, but the reason they set up as foundations is partly following this legacy of how the original ICOs were done. Let's call them ITOs, I guess now. And partly because, you know, they believe in a foundation as the structure that this new emerging paradigm should be run under. So what's interesting about running it under a foundation and having it open source is that venture capitalists don't really like it very much. First of all, they like patents, and they like proprietary. Energy from a renewable resource allows you to mint your own currency. Now this currency can actually be bought by the carbon credit market. So we have a way to validate, and we can create demand, and we can give liquidity to this crypto, because there is demand for companies to actually to buy this currency to offset their carbon usage. What's also interesting about it is that they're having different algorithms in different countries. So for instance, in India or in parts of Africa, the algorithms, if you have a solar panel in Africa, you will mint more currency than, say, one in Germany, because Germany has already a lot of renewables. So we create a demand for people to build solar projects in emerging economies. And we drive power and resources into places that don't have energy, maybe, or they're using dirty energy still. So it's a big idea, it's a big project, but it's got MIT and it's got some hedge funds in New York. And not completely sure 100% it will work, but we want to be part of the revolution of driving people towards renewable energy, and we believe that blockchain is part of that solution. Another project I'm working on is called Decentralized Pictures. I want to give you an idea of just a few things that are going on. DCP has actually got nothing to do with blockchain, really, which is interesting. I suppose a few of you have heard of Apocalypse Now or The Godfather, maybe. This director named Francis Ford Coppola, he has a company called American Zoetrope. I've been working with their team for the past 3 months to design an online film funding community for independent filmmakers, and they want to break Hollywood. They want to create an ecosystem built on the Bancor protocol that will allow creative people to spin out their own coins and allow people to invest from the bottom up, to create new liquidity for creatives, to create new liquidity for film, to drive funding into film itself, to be decided by the community, not some guy in an office in LA with a corner suite looking out going, oh, no, yes, no. That's not predictable enough. Again, it's a grand mission, and this is what's great about blockchain, is we sit on the cusp of this ability to transform industries, possibly. And that's a great feeling, because this is like 1993 all over again for me. I don't know if you guys were around at that time, but you know, it's the Wild West, and it's a great place to be. And Project Pi, you'll be seeing them coming up later. This technology is absolutely amazing. These guys were backed by Tencent and SoftBank Open, who are the primary partners on this project. Basically, you create your own artificially intelligent virtual character that looks like you, sounds like you, sings like you, speaks in Chinese with your voice, and does a whole slew of other things. This is also fun. The implications of this technology 10 or 15 years down the road are pretty powerful if people are talking about uploading their own intelligence into the internet and things like that. Maybe we're going to be existing well beyond our mortal life in a form of this type. So anyway, folks, I've got a list of different case studies on blockchain. You can see here the various different parts that blockchain is touching: financial industry, health industry, legal, supply chain, provenance, telco, retail, identity management, energy, governance, real estate, video, music, security industry, loyalty programs, academia, ticketing, economy, community as a service, and social media. We're coming. And we're coming in many different industries, and that's what's great about the transformational capability of blockchain. And not only are we able to have an impact on these various industries with our new wonderful technology, but we can actually raise funds now to do that. And a lot of this new liquidity that's being created is coming from the wealth that's being created from Bitcoin. So imagine you bought Bitcoin, or earlier this year, even Ethereum. For instance, I know an ICO called Singularity DTV. They raised $5 million. Doesn't sound, it was okay, 7 million maybe. But they raised that when Ethereum was $14. So now actually by doing nothing, just by sitting on their Ethereum, they're a $100 million company over the process of about a year and a half. So there's all this new liquidity, there's all this new wealth that's being created, and it's all coming into blockchain. And it's a great time to be here. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I just pulled it off the stage. The questions for the next